Science Lunch and Learn series. As Carrie said, my name is Nick Graham, and I'm the environmental scientist for the Sierra Fund, and I'm excited to be here today to tell you about the need for and the work we've been able to accomplish so far as it pertains to the hydraulic mine and mine feature inventory. So to start off, to place this work within our mission, the Sierra Fund has been working to address legacy impacts of the gold rush since 2009. And that work has culminated into the development of our Headwater Mercury Source Reduction Strategy, or the HMSR strategy, and our Technical Advisory Committee, or TAC. The strategy focuses on four main targets, which are the hydraulic mine and mine features, mercury in forest and land management, mercury contaminated sediment in reservoirs, mercury exposure via fish consumption. And these four targets combine to form our strategy document. The HMSR strategy is not a static document, it's a living document. That means that whenever new thinking and practices emerge, the document is updated and a new draft is circulated. And there it is. Our current edition is current through October of 2019. It's available on our website if you'd like to take a look. So what you see here is the Sierra Fund's arc of understanding for each of our four main targets. And where we start by really gaining a 360-degree understanding of the issue or the project. From there, we will engage problem solvers or a working group of advisors, such as our TAC or our Technical Advisory Committee. From there, we'll explore solutions in the form of pilot projects, and in the form of today's talk, we'll be talking, that's where the hydraulic mine and mine feature inventory lies. From there, we would like to know better and do better and develop best management practices for these assessments, and then we'd like to sustain the change. And we do that by implementing the best management practices outlined within our Headwater Mercury Source Reduction Strategy. Though our focus is on the Sierra Nevada, we see great benefit to collaborating with downstream stakeholders, addressing mercury. As we know, the abandoned mines of our region are a significant source of contamination to the Bay and Delta area. The TAC provides a venue for cross-regional collaboration so that we can begin to address the issue at a watershed scale. By collaborating on the strategy and creating a co-identified approach to reducing headwater sources of mercury, the efficacy and effectiveness of this work can be improved and leveraged toward the identification of future projects, which is where the hydraulic mine inventory will provide an avenue forward. Our efforts to compile and build this hydraulic mine and mine feature inventory are intended to facilitate the identification and prioritization of future mine remediation projects. So the story of gold mining, or the gold mining and the use of mercury in California, goes like this. In the mid-1800s, after the initial era of pans and hands, where gold was found easily in rivers and streams, the mining in the Sierra entered the corporate era, which is where more increasingly powerful companies consolidated claims into large holdings that were worked based on economy of scale principles. Mercury, which is not native in abundance in the Sierra, was found to have an extremely useful application in relation to gold, as it acts as an amalgam. It binds with the gold and increases the recovery of gold during mining practices. Subsequently, 26 million pounds of elemental mercury were imported to the Sierra Nevada from the Coast Range. Of this, approximately 13 million pounds were lost to the environment, and this mercury continues to wash off mine sites bound to fine-grained sediment at hydraulic mines, like what you see at the top left of the slide. And they're also entrained in contaminated mill sands, or the waste left over after ore was crushed and treated with mercury at hard rock mines that you see at the bottom left. There are over 40,000 abandoned mine lands in California, as you can see on the image on the right, where the mercury mines are in red and the gold mines are in yellow, and many of which have both physical and chemical hazards associated with them. In an effort to make this daunting task more manageable and more strategic, we have focused our initiative and inventory development to addressing the impacts of one type of mining, which is hydraulic mining, and one type of contaminant, mercury. So some typical hydraulic mine characteristics as you would see them today. Due to how they were created with water cannons, and they were often reworked during several different time periods and then abandoned, they tend to be fairly complex. So they have features such as active erosional areas, drain tunnels, ditches, ponds, gullies, head cuts, multiple outflows. And they're also geomorphically unstable, with characteristics such as steep headwalls, eroding drainages, and tunnels and gullies that drain into creeks and rivers nearby. So we began this approach to developing the hydraulic mine inventory by compiling the current data sources available. And some of these current data sets of these hydraulic mines and mine features are compiled from sources such as topographic mine symbols, or TOMS, which was produced by the California Geological Survey, principal area mine pollution, which is PAMP, which is a database originally compiled by the Division of Mines and Geology for the State Water Resources Control Board in 1972. And currently what we've been working on, as well as with folks from the Tahoe National Forest, is actually deriving delineations or outlines of these hydraulic mines and mine features within the Tahoe National Forest. And that was all done because of LIDAR, or a high accuracy scan of the topography. Additionally, there's some data gathered from articles such as the gold-bearing gravel of the ancestral Yuba rivers, done by the U.S. Geological Survey. And there's also some additional satellite imagery-derived hydraulic mine delineations that are not found within these sources and outside of the LIDAR extent within the Tahoe National Forest. So what you see here is a layered geospatial distribution of the data available. So this is just strictly from TOMS and PAMP. And you can see there's quite a bit of overlap. As far as usefulness of points on a map, they're not exactly the most descriptive. You can see where they are, but we don't know the size, extent, level of use, things of that nature. So how can we improve upon this? So this brings to our pilot approach in developing the hydraulic mine and mine feature inventory. Currently, our approach is limited to the Tahoe National Forest boundary, and more specifically, a pending project called the Tropical Project, or the area we've outlined to work on to begin with. We're focused on the Tahoe National Forest because of the availability of the LIDAR for the region, and narrow focus to the Tropical Project for our proof of concept. Granted, we are zoomed in, but if you can look at the image on the right, you can begin to see the amount of detail we're able to see and document so far within the inventory compared to the PAMP or TOMS database. So if you look on the right, you can actually see the green outline of the hydraulic mine itself. You can see other features like DCD here stands for debris control dam. You can see this accumulated sediments, which was a result from the removal of sediment from such areas. So moving forward, we'd like to expand on our efforts to build upon our current inventory in an effort to increase the pace and scale of hydraulic mine inventory and to facilitate hydraulic mine remediation activities. Sierra Fund is proposing a goal to delineate and ground truth hydraulic mines and mine features for 1 subwatershed per year. To date, there's 3 subwatersheds that have been ground truth or have begun to be ground truth, and that lies within the Willow Creek and Oregon Creek subwatersheds, as well as the Washington Hook subwatershed. That image details a couple of the smaller subwatersheds within the Tahoe National Forest, but much more area remains. So what does it mean to start to develop this inventory? What is the work that's going into it? So first, we start off in front of a computer screen, delineating and digitizing hydraulic mine features using the LIDAR-based map within ArcGIS, a geospatial software. From there, crews would ground truth these mine sites that were delineated. And while they're on the site, these crews are not only checking the delineations that they're accurate, but they're also collecting additional information as far as presence of certain characteristics that we talked about, like active eroding sites, tunnels, drains, water movement or capturing, things of that nature. And so once you get back into the office and you've collected your data from ground truthing, you start to build an Excel spreadsheet that will then be imported to the database. And this begins the building of the newly identified and ground truth hydraulic mines and mine features. From there, the database of descriptive features of each delineated mine site or mine featured is imported into the geospatial database that look like the image above. So the database development following site verifications and characterizations will build the inventory on a subwatershed basis over time to resemble the Willow Creek subwatershed that you see here on the left. The key points I want to emphasize: the value of building this data set with as many qualifiers or attributes as possible. I say this because we want the expansion of this database to include a searchable prioritization tool in efforts on hydraulic mine sites based on selected attributes for each hydraulic mine or mine feature. So pretty much we can filter out, certain mine sites based off size or proximity to water or contamination load, things of that nature. So what you see on this slide is a glimpse into the type of descriptive information or attributes we can begin to collecting in conjunction with the ground truthing of sites for each delineated mine or mine feature. So things like fire risk or presence of endangered species. Has there been any permitting done? What's the historical records? How much mercury was brought into the site? How much gold was removed or recovered? In addition to the site characteristics of ownership and size and distance and mining features. So that brings us to the Trapper project area, or the area that the Sierra Fund has selected to begin our inventory development. This area is approximately 31,000 acre planning area with about 19,000 acres of national forest system. The identified hydraulic mines or mine features within the Trapper, it's got 135 identified hydraulic mines or mine features within the Trapper boundary. And this boundary also contains the previously identified Oregon Creek subwatershed and portions of the Willow Creek subwatershed. This here is a link to our current piloted hydraulic mine inventory, but I'm going to postpone that and we'll bring that in at the end during the discussion just so we can maintain the flow of the talk. So the Sierra Fund is modeling our approach to build the hydraulic mine inventory in the same way that the Sierra Nevada Meadows Partnership created the Sierra Nevada Meadows Data Clearinghouse, which is housed by UC Davis. The UC Davis Meadows Clearinghouse is the culmination of over 10 years of effort from the Meadows community, and the Clearinghouse data is a website available to all stakeholders and interested members of the community. All you have to do is simply sign up. And it's continuously growing as meadow restoration projects take place and populate the database with collected information. The idea being that the hydraulic mine TAC or our partnership could benefit from having a clearinghouse for all the hydraulic mine assessment and remediation activities, as well as a prioritization tool. The Meadows Clearinghouse and database has allowed for the Meadows partnership to grow to over 200 members strong and used in a wide variety of ways. So what are some next steps for the Sierra Fund and the hydraulic mining inventory partnership? We can begin to ground truth our mine delineations outside of the watersheds already established, standardized site characterization of the protocol, ground truthing of these features at one subwatershed per year, develop a list of relevant qualifiers and characteristics for use within the ranking and prioritization tool. We can begin to append current hydraulic mine site data sets with these identified qualifiers or attributes, populate the inventory, construct this tool, construct the website that will house all of this information, begin to establish hydraulic mine feature prioritization tool access as far as who we want to allow to access such information. Is it open to the public or is it open to stakeholders and project leaders? And then lastly, we need to identify and pursue funding to expand LiDAR extent outside of the Tahoe National Forest so we can increase the spread of our inventory database. So we wanted to say thank you to our sponsors, Bella Vista and Resource Legacy Fund, which are our current funders, Sierra Nevada Conservancy and Tahoe National Forest for their funding, as well as work or help developing the LiDAR-derived delineations. And also like to thank DWR for funding the Mercury Forum as part of the CABI Sediment and Mercury Abatement Project, which has proved to be such a useful coordination vehicle that the HMSR TAC was convened to carry the process forward. In the time since the Mercury Forum, the TAC has been instrumental for ensuring continued technical engagements on projects, including the HMF inventory. So with that, I want to end and let you guys know we still have future Lunch and Learn series coming up in the coming weeks. And after each presentation, we'll host about a 30 to 45-minute lunch talk for folks that have joined the Zoom, and an opportunity to ask questions, challenge information, or generally get to know each other's work better. Thank you very much. We will have stopped the recording, and we welcome your input.